Freelap is a great timing tool for us track and field coaches. It's just got better with the introduction of the FX Motion chip. How can you measure stride length, stride frequency, number of strides and reaction times to great accuracy for a couple of £100? Well, the new FX Motion chip will enable you to do just that. To activate the chip, as with the FX chip BLEs, give it a shake. Now it will operate for 30 minutes at least, but will deactivate itself after 30 minutes if the session has finished, for example. As with the latest FX chip BLEs, the FX Motion chip utilizes USB connectivity to recharge, and it will be fully charged within about 5 hours and has 100 hours of life within it. As long as you've set up a session for multiple athletes, you can utilize FX chip BLEs and the FX Motion chips within the same workout. Just for reference, within the app there are various preset sessions already formulated for your use, which will save you time. Okay, so how did we get on timing with the FX Motion chip? We got it to work pretty quickly, and the data is going to be really useful to us. If you're doing 100 meters, for example, and you've got sufficient TX Junior Pros, you could have 5 20-meter sections. And then with the FX Motion chip, you're going to be able to determine the stride frequencies and stride lengths, average stride lengths, throughout those segments. You're going to be able to see, therefore, whether or not there is a slowing down in cadence across the last 40 meters, for example, and a decrease or an increase in stride length. And that over time is going to enable you to better program your sprint training to enable your 100-meter sprinter to maintain frequency across the top end maximum velocity phases of the sprint and also maintain stride frequency. Once you've got historical data built up over time, you're going to be able to see how your training programs are building towards that end goal. Now obviously, if their stride length is increasing average, again I must say, and their frequency is staying more or less the same, then they're going to sprint further. If their stride length is increasing significantly and their leg speed is reducing significantly, then they are overstriding. Now of course you're going to see that with your eyes, but having the data, the specific data from the FX Motion chip will enable you to be more precise. Okay, let's talk about long and triple jump and run-up timing. That's about the new FX Motion chip is going to provide me with more data that will be able to determine whether or not we are getting increased stride length in the middle phase and then decrease potentially in the stride length and increase in frequency coming into the board. When we measure that against the time for the segments, we should then be able to better formulate a strategy in which to get optimum takeoff speed with the jump. The FX Motion chip can only measure average stride length. It can't do individual stride lengths, and it can only do it over a 10-meter section. Great feature of the Freelap app is its export function, so you can easily take the data from the app and export it into CSV files or PDF files, for example, and put them into your notes, for example, on an iPhone. And of course, you can then send the data straight from your phone to your training group. If you wanted to get real specific detail on individual stride lengths and the difference between the frequencies of the left and right leg, for example, then you'd need to be spending thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds on something like the OptoJump system. So the FX Motion chip gives you great potentiality for a fraction of the cost. Yes, there are a few limitations with it, notably the average stride length count. However, I can see that there are going to be great positives for the utilization of the FX Motion chip over time. The SRP of the FX Motion chips is £254.87. Now you will need a USB charger for that as well, and those have an SRP of £20. If you are interested in getting one for yourself, then do drop me a message in the section below or via this email. I'm just going to take you through how I set up a fly 20-meter session with 2 10-meter splits, and you're going to see on screen now the actual inputs that I made in order to achieve that session. It's important to make sure that you indicate that you're going to time 2 10-meter splits, otherwise you're not going to get them. Additionally, you need to make sure that you switched on all the metrics so that the FX Motion chip will record them. So for example, stride frequency, stride length, number of strides, etc. If you don't do that, then they're not going to be registered. You also need to make sure that you're switching on the facility so that you can use multiple chips. And as I've said in the main part of the video, you can use the FX chip BLEs and the FX Motion chip at the same time. So pay attention to how I set this particular session up, and crucially spend a lot of time practicing setting up sessions so that you don't waste valuable time when you're at the track.